Television highlights of the news of yesteryear. Tragedy of infamy and intrigue, the Dollfus story. May 1934, and crowds hail Engelbert Dollfus, Austrian Chancellor, who is about to sign a pact with Italy's Mussolini, guaranteeing independence for Austria and protection for both German and Austrian Nazis. Il Duce signs the paper that is to be violated 2 months later after Nazi followers mortally wounded Dollfus and allowed him to bleed to death. Death mask of a martyr. Sorrowing thousands jam Vienna's streets at the funeral of Middle Europe's little Napoleon. Even as Austria mourned, plans were made for Dollfus' successor, Dr. Kurt von Schuschnigg, who announces his intentions of continuing the dead Chancellor's political policies. Anti-Nazi fighting breaks out in Vienna streets. Home Guard army is ordered out by Prince von Starrenberg, and purge of pro-Nazi Austrians begins. Continued outbreaks call for declaration by Minister of Defense Major Fay that Vienna is under martial law. Added to the inter-Austrian conflict is fear of German invasion, and forthcoming is test of the Italian pact Mussolini signed with Dollfus May 14, 1934. Italian troops did line the Austrian border, but soon came the Rome-Berlin-Tokyo alliance that nullified the former agreement. Back in Vienna, trial is begun of the assassins who had seized cabinet members and mortally wounded Chancellor Dollfus. Otto Planetta, who has confessed the actual murder, and Franz Holzweber, who commanded the raid on the Chancellery, are in this prison, but they are soon to pay on the gallows for their unprovoked assault. So ends the Dollfus story, the story of a leader who foresaw the rise of the Nazis and paid with his life.
February 1939 sees official opening of Treasure Island off San Francisco in a $50 million pageant of the Pacific. The man-made island houses an exposition of beauty and brilliance, and on opening day, thousands see California's Governor Olson unlock the gates for the first of the expected 20 million visitors. Soon visitors will hear official welcome from Franklin Delano Roosevelt speaking from Key West, Florida.
Treasure Island, with an area of more than 400 acres, is America's newest insular possession. It is an outstanding example of territorial expansion without aggression. By setting an example of international solidarity, cooperation, mutual trust, and joint helpfulness, we may keep faith alive in the heart of anxious and troubled humanity, and at the same time lift democracy high above the ugly truculence of autocracy.
36 nations and 31 states have sponsored exhibits on Treasure Island as San Francisco fosters a gala fiesta of fun, grandeur, and glory. This is the San Francisco Fair. This is Treasure Island.
The Aga Khan, India's Mohammedan leader, marries for the second time. It's December 7th, 1929, and the bride, the former André Caron, is a French middle-class shop girl who met the potentate when she sold him some candy in Aix-les-Bains. Years later, also in France, Ali Khan and Rita Hayward are wed. Around the world courtship results in the marriage of the Aga Khan's son and Hollywood's glamorous dancing dramatic star. No romance since the Prince of Wales' Wally Simpson courtship was so well publicized. Wedding dinner with Rita and her father-in-law, the Aga Khan, the subject of hundreds of news stories and thousands of pictures. Love and kisses for Mr. and Mrs.
England's most renowned dramatic star. This is Ellen Terry, shown with playwright author James M. Barrie when the British government conferred on her the title of Dame for her theatrical achievements. Years later, the celebrated actress, then 77 years old, opens a home for blind children. Dame Ellen Terry, Queen of Thespia.
The Roosevelts. It's 1925, and Teddy Roosevelt Jr. says farewell to his family. TR's eldest son is Asia-bound in search of rare animals. Brother Kermit says so long to his family. Happy hunting, Kermit, and Teddy too.
First Lady of Radium. You are watching Marie Curie, who devoted her life to research in physics and chemistry. In 1898, Madame Curie obtained radium from pitchblende, start of a career that saw the world acknowledge her supremacy in science. Actual scenes of the 1931 earthquake in Nicaragua. Initial tremor was followed by fires that destroyed the city of Managua. Complete devastation was the result, despite efforts by Nicaraguans to combat the flames. You are flying over the ravaged country. Only a few of Nicaragua's proud buildings remain upright, despite the fact that the earthquake itself lasted but 6 seconds. Civilian workers begin their gruesome task of digging for bodies in the wreckage. Almost 2,000 perished in the disaster, with damage of $50 million. Lone bright spot for Nicaraguans in their hour of need was presence of U.S. Marines, who helped fight fires and set up emergency medical units for civilians injured in the disaster. Originally scheduled to leave Nicaragua the following day, Marines stayed on to provide food as well as medical care to stricken residents. Acting under Marine Colonel Frederick L. Bradman, America's fightingest fighting force turned a helping hand to humanity.
We're in 1919, and the United States Army is sponsoring a series of coast-to-coast flights to test the reliability of airplanes. In cockpit of this plane, Lieutenant B.W. Maynard, known as the Flying Parson, who's to win the race. Here he leaves Mineola, Long Island, on a hop to the coast. At the same time, in Sacramento, California, the other half of the Army's plan goes into operation. Planes taking off, making the west-to-east flight. Once again at Mineola, the Army's Lieutenant Worthington arrives from the coast after creating several records en route. Officials check his timing just as Army officers in San Francisco wait to greet the Flying Parson on his arrival, following the east to west flight. This, however, is only one half of the trip. Maynard, after a brief rest, is to set out again for his original starting place. It took Maynard 3 days, 6 hours, and 4 minutes to make it to the coast, but he managed to average 125 miles an hour. Congratulations from Air Service officials in California, and Maynard heads back east. Leaving Chicago, the Flying Parson has just conquered near disaster when forced down in Omaha, but he's on his way to victory in this race. Starting point again, Mineola, Long Island, and Maynard's wife and 2 children are included in the crowd waiting for him to appear after his flight. Maynard was later to be hailed by Colonel Billy Mitchell as first flyer of the Army. Here's Maynard congratulated by Roosevelt Field's commander after making return flight in only 25 hours. That's Trixie, who flew with Maynard. And here's a family reunion in front of his de Havilland ship. Yes, Maynard made it.
Feminine Finery in 1923. Fashion Show brings out a preview of afternoon and evening attire to be favored by milady for the coming season. Things have changed, wouldn't you say? And wouldn't you also say, thank goodness?
Let's go up to Quebec for the international dog race that attracted huskies from the Northwest and Canada. They're off on a grueling 120-mile course that saw dogs, sleds, and masters racing 40 miles a day for 3 days. It's a tough grind, but the honor of the race keeps the huskies heaving along to the finish. And here it is in a blinding snowstorm. Winner of the contest, the dog team driven and owned by a Canadian. And here he is, Émile Saint-Gothard. From snow trails to track and field, Madison Square Garden sees sprinting star Ralph Metcalf, second from far line, flash across the tape. In the 65-meter high hurdles, a new world's record is being set by the New York Athletic Club's entry. But the crowd's waiting for the 1,500-meter event. Yes, and there it is. Gene Venske against Glenn Cunningham. Cinder rivalry at its best. With Venske on the inside, Cunningham is about to make his move, but trying to pass, Glenn breaks stride. Off goes Gene with Cunningham pouring it on in an attempt to overtake his flying rival. He's starting to close in, but Gene's last-minute sprint leaves Cunningham behind by inches. What a race! What a finish!
Television highlights of the news of yesteryear.